There were a few times throughout the human history when we had a chance to realize that we may not be so special after all. Think about it. If the sun doesn't revolve around the Earth and the solar system itself isn't the center of our galaxy, and our galaxy isn't even the only galaxy out there in the universe, so maybe we aren't God's one and only special little creature cradled comfortably in the outskirts of the Milky Way. It seems to me that it's highly unlikely that life could only possibly form on Earth. Whatever the conditions required for an inorganic matter to turn into an organic and a conscious one are, they should have been met at more than just one place in the whole universe. And it gets worse. Our sun is relatively young, so in theory this means that there should be other planets that are far older than Earth. So if it happened for some other kind of life to form on one of these planets, they should be much more developed than we are. Frank Drake, an American astrophysicist, provided us with a probabilistic argument, and let me explain. So it's not so hard to guess that the word probabilistic comes from the word probability. So this just means that this argument, it as the Drake's equation, is the result of multiplication of different rates and probabilities, such as the average rate of star formation in our galaxy, fraction of planets that should have required conditions for life to form there, at least for life as we know it to form there, then the chance that whatever the conditions were, life did actually form there, and then the chances that this life form that managed to form in the first place went on to develop into a civilization that could make technology that would leave us traces to find.
These traces are also called technosignatures or technomarkers.
Abnormally high levels of electromagnetic radiation might mean or might not mean that there is a life on this planet. So when scientists try to substitute the actual numerical values into the Drake's equation, many of the components of this equation are unknown for us and we can only estimate them. And our estimations often range a lot. Despite the possible criticism of this equation, it still served as a basis for allocating millions of dollars into the SETI program. It is devoted for extraterrestrial life storage, usually with radio telescopes.
Despite the fact that this program had existed for many years, we haven't found anything significant at all.
So the question is, where is everybody? And this is the exact question that Enrico Fermi asked while having lunch with his colleagues. It was in 1950, even before all this Drake's equation stuff, so don't get this wrong. Although it's certain that Enrico Fermi wasn't the first one to notice that we might not be the only ones out there. This idea is rather old. Allegedly, he never even did formulate it as a paradox, it was just a question that startled him. But anyway, since the so-called paradox was formulated, there have been many attempts to resolve it. And in this video, I will try to cover all of them, at least all that I could find. All the explanations can be divided into two main groups. So let's start with the first one, the one that says that if we cannot seem to find anyone, that could just mean that there isn't anyone to find. There are no signs of higher civilizations because there are no higher civilizations in existence. So then the question is, why is that? We already discussed that in terms of likelihood, there should be thousands of civilizations in just our galaxy. So let me introduce the Great Filter concept. It is a hypothetical wall or a stage in evolutionary process of civilization that is just extremely unlikely or even impossible for life to get beyond. So even if life did manage to form, it just didn't pass this evolutionary stage and just died, went extinct. Take a look at this image I found online. I think it illustrates the concept very well. On this image, Type 3 civilization is a civilization that can gather all the energy from all the stars in its galaxy, or other galaxies as well. For comparison, we only can gather about 70% of energy from Earth. This puts us even below Type 1 civilization, and by the way, it's called Kardashev scale. Type 2 civilization is a civilization that can gather all the energy from its host star. This can be done with a thing that is called a Dyson sphere, so it's basically a sphere built around the star. Some people believe that the formation of life itself is extremely unlikely thing wherever in the universe. Many of the upholders of this theory also believe that there's something unique about Earth, whether it would be for religious reasons or not, it is a hypothesis. The Great Filter hypothesis can themselves be divided into two groups. So the first group is saying that the Great Filter is behind us and yay, I guess. Some of the great filter candidates are appearing on our screen right now, and you can read them. In this list, only the last item is in the ahead of us group. Another possibility is that the great filter is this evolutionary jump between the simple prokaryote cell and the more complex eukaryote cell. It would explain why we can't seem to find anyone. Primitive life doesn't leave any technotraces, so it's much harder to find, but it still does leave some biotraces. There are a lot of different kinds of species on Earth, but only one could manage to develop into a technological intelligence. Guess who it was? This shows that particular ecological conditions that make evolutionary process pivot that way are rare, even on one planet. So think about the whole universe then. This is called the rare Earth hypothesis. It states that something about the Earth is extremely friendly for life to form there. And last but not least, we might just be the first ones to pass the great filter, so I think we just have to wait for other ones to see us, but it might take a long time. This might be explained by the assumption that the needed conditions in the universe only just started to be appropriate. So this second subgroup is all about how the great filter is ahead of us, and this means that we are doomed. We can't seem to find anyone because everyone is extinct, and we are next to follow the same fate. So what is our menace we should be all afraid of? It might be a regularly occurring natural cataclysm like epidemic, for example, or any other kind of natural disaster, or early intelligent civilization just reaches some period in its history when it might be that the pace of technological development is much faster than that of the cultural and moral development, which means that we possess technology and weapons that we are not mature enough to take care of. So it's only a matter of time when we kill ourselves in some kind of nuclear war, for example, or some kind of scientific accidents like experiments including black holes that go out of control, and yeah. That is why, according to Nick Bostrom, a philosopher from Oxford University, no news is good news. The discovery of even simple life on Mars, for example, would cut out a number of potential great filters behind us, and if the life that we would happen to discover would be advanced, this would mean that the great filter is not that far away from us. That is it for the first group. So the explanations in the second group are based on the assumption that higher civilizations are out there, but there is some reason why we cannot seem to find them. There is a rational explanation for us to work out. So the basis here is the mediocrity principle, which states that there is nothing special about the Earth, about our galaxy, about anything related to us in particular, and that is until evidence proves otherwise. Upholders of this group of explanations are also much less quick to assume that the lack of evidence of higher civilizations is the evidence for their non-existence. Our search for signals stretches only about 100 light years away from us, that is 0.1% across the galaxy. So they suggest a number of possible explanations, so let's take a look at them. 1. Super intelligent life had already visited the Earth, while humans had been around for only about 50,000 years, so it was rather easy for us to miss this opportunity to meet in person. 2. The galaxy has been colonized, but we just live in some kind of desolate rural area no one's ever visiting. 3. The entire concept of physical colonization is an extremely backward one for advanced species. They might have crazy advanced methods for reducing their needs and resources, so they just have zero interest in us and in living their utopia world. An even more advanced species could see all the physical world as an extremely primitive place to live in, and in conquering their biology they could have uploaded their minds in some kind of virtual reality they are now living in. They became quite hard for us to trace. The dark forest concept was first introduced by Chinese fiction writer Liu Cixin. Competition for resources or conflicts rising from other reasons could have made developed species go into hiding and do it as thoroughly as possible. It's best for everyone to hide themselves because it's impossible to know what might be expecting you behind the corner. And naturally, in such case, we cannot detect their activity. Even more, it would mean that they are extremely naive not to act accordingly. What about the time we sent this plug into space with Voyager 1? Maybe there's only one instance of higher civilizations left, a super predator such as we are on Earth. They're far more advanced than anybody else, and they keep things that way by exterminating any civilization that had passed a certain level of advancement. Another possibility. There's plenty of activity out there, but we just cannot detect any of it because our technology is too primitive to do it. Imagine walking into a modern-day office building with a walkie-talkie and detecting no activity. Would it mean that there's no one in this building? No, it just means that your walkie-talkie is out of date. Like, no one's using it anymore. Everyone's texting and calling, and you get the idea. Carl Sagan has pointed out that our minds could possibly work in different paces. Like, for example, it takes the average civilization 12 years to say hello, and even if we would detect such a signal, it would be nonsense for us. It would just sound like a white noise. I think it's an interesting one. It might be that we are already in contact with other civilizations, but the government is hiding it from us. The other civilizations are aware of us and they are observing us surreptitiously, aka zoo hypothesis. And this one is extremely old. It was first introduced by Soviet scientist Konstantin Tsiolkovsky in 1933. He speculated that mankind is not yet ready for the higher civilizations to contact us, so they're just waiting. Maybe there is a thing similar to Star Trek's Prime Directive. You can be an observer, but you cannot get in the way of things developing in their own way.
I'm Captain James Kirk of the United Spaceship Enterprise. This is my first officer, Mr. Spock. John Gill, your Fuhrer, was sent here by the Federation as a cultural observer.
You mean that the Fuhrer is an alien?
That is correct.
So for now, we just need to concentrate on trying not to kill ourselves until they wait for us to reach a certain level of advancement. The higher civilizations are all around us, but we are just too primitive to notice it. Like, imagine an ant colony.
If a new highway was to be built near, say, a forest they inhabit, they wouldn't suddenly realize their small place in the Earth's ecosystem and how little advanced they are compared to humans. In the same way as an ant doesn't care about the origin of artificial surfaces it is climbing, we can perceive something made by aliens as a normal part of our surroundings.
We also might be completely wrong about our reality.
This includes the theories about our world being a computer simulation, or it might be that we are literally wrong in understanding the physical laws of the universe. The modern scientific method may be one of the best things that humans have created, but being based on inductive reasoning, it doesn't guarantee us any certainly correct results.
Remember the Kardashev scale?
He proposed a hypothesis that there are wormholes leading to other universes. Once a civilization reaches a needed level of advancement, they can pass through one of these wormholes and continue living in wherever it leads to. This idea is peculiar because it implies that there are other universes that are somehow different from ours, making them a more preferable, comfortable place for living.
In theory, a wormhole consists of a white hole and a black hole forming a tunnel between them. The existence of white holes was predicted alongside with the existence of black holes and gravitational waves by the theory of relativity. But unlike the black holes and gravitational waves, we didn't detect any evidence of their existence. The universe holds a lot of mysteries that are still up to us to unravel, and it's an interesting path of science to follow. But that was it for today. I hope that watching this video was enjoyable and you did comprehend all the concepts I was trying to explain. Oh, and I'm kind of new here, so don't forget to follow. Bye!